This episode almost didn't make it on YouTube, but that's just because some of the camera info dropped out right around the time I started my conversation with Jay Corso. Luckily, the audio survived, and to be quite frank, that conversation was just too good to lose. I didn't want to shortchange anyone out there on YouTube who might want to watch this, though the full thing is up on the podcast as well if you wanted to check that out. But let's talk about Jay Corso. Jay is a custodian, a security guard, and also the creator of robo-pulp. It's a sci-fi pulp universe that he's building piece by piece. And what he said about identity, AI, creativity, and surviving the struggling artist trap is an inspiration to all artists. So today, we're going to do something different. No talking heads like before, just the audio. I'll throw in some visuals for you. You could probably just ignore most of it and just listen to it if you want. But it's going to be great. You're not going to want to miss this. Let's dive into it with Jay Corso. Today I have with me Jay Corso, and tell me a little bit about who you are, Jay, and what you're doing.
I started writing just, straightforward fiction, and then I was very much into filmmaking for a while, made some short films, but I kind of hit a wall in that I couldn't find, committed people to work with. Then pandemic happened, and I kind of pivoted into making a comic book. I used that downtime that I had to make a comic book, and now we're in the age of AI, and I'm exploring what can be done with this technology, because it's you're not really stuck to one particular thing. You don't have to be just a writer or just a painter or just a cartoonist. You can mix and match and use this tech as an amplifier of what you do. You can remix what you do in ways that we don't even know yet. Like the definition of what an artist is changing right now because of this tech. It's a game changer unlike anything that we've had before. So I'm very interested in exploring that as well.
Doing those, do you have any actual books out or anything right now, or what are you doing?
Yes, I have a graphic novel. I am now making it like a physical book and an ebook as well, and I'm going to make it available in those formats as well. So I've done that. It's the one thing that I completed. I made some short films, but I don't really share those. They were more like practice. They were more like film school than like actual things. But that is all I have done. And again, one thing that I'm excited about AI is that, first of all, it's very fluid. You can do just about anything with it. And I guess also how to promote myself online, how to grow a brand online, which is a fascinating thing in itself. It's like a science in itself. How do you do your thing and share it with people and grow an audience that way? It's like the purest form of communication between you and your audience, because you don't have a mediator between you, or you could, I guess, if you wanted to. But there is a way to make your message very clear and very direct to the people who it's for, which I think is how you and I connected, I guess, through OBA.
Right. Yeah. Our friends over at OBA, I was talking with them. I'm like, hey, do you know any storytellers who would be really interesting to get a conversation from and things? And I was like, send them my way. I'd love to talk to them. And then that's how we got connected. So.
Well, very good, man. Thank you. Very nice of them to say that. I appreciate that.
So I do have a question though. So as you dive into the world of AI, because AI is very fascinating to me. I think it's a fascinating topic for a lot of people. It's also very polarizing. Some people look at it as the death of the creative, or maybe the death of the modern world as we know it. But other people look at it as as an increase in technology, which is going to increase productivity, something that's going to maybe help us all move up to another level. And I'm just kind of curious, or maybe just kind of augment how we do things. So how are you using AI right now?
I am using it right now, I think, in the most basic of forms. I'm using it to create images, and I'm also using it to help me navigate social media. These platforms are here. How can I leverage these platforms? And that's really all I'm doing with it. But there's people doing way more with it. And like you said, it's a very polarizing issue. And I sometimes find myself in the middle of these discussions when I make I am most active on Substack, and I'll make a post about that. And next thing I know, I got dragged into like an argument going between two people that I wasn't even a part of. It was just going, the pros versus the cons of it. And I actually wrote like a guest post on someone's Substack, someone who's is very much about using AI. But what they teach is about how to be non-copyable, how to use AI to just enhance your message. And I wrote something to the effect that AI is really more of an amplifier. It's like if you were to put on an exoskeleton, like you'll be able to lift more, you'll be able to do more things. But if you have no purpose to putting on that exoskeleton, you'll just do what everybody else is doing with AI. Like the AI slop that we see, that really terrifying looking crappy artwork. But I see people doing really clever things with it as well, and to me that says, okay, so there is someone who has some intention with it, or at least they're bringing something to their engagement with AI. But then there's people who are just using it, and then they'll say, well, make me a superhero that's like Batman, but maybe a little skinnier and maybe not as rich, and that's it. That's the extent of what they're doing. Like, well, you're not gonna get something exciting. You're gonna get people saying that's what you're doing with AI. You're just, you're not doing really anything with it. So it's really something. There has to be an intent to it, other than just I'm going to take something popular and maybe change it just enough to avoid copyright. I've always been a fan of sci-fi. I guess sci-fi is the literature that has always drawn me the most, because it's the literature of ideas. Ideas are kind of the driving engine of the story. But when you combine that, if you can reach that balance of ideas with a human filter through which to explore the story, then you have something very exciting, something that gives you that intellectual kick, but also gives you something human that other people can relate to. So Ray Bradbury was one of my big ones growing up. Harlan Ellison, Philip K. Dick a little later, and then as a young adult, William Gibson. That was also like a really mind-blowing experience, discovering Johnny Mnemonic and then the novel Neuromancer and all those works. And I was like, this is it. This is kind of what I'm trying to do, what he's doing here. I don't read him as much, and I feel the reason is because it feels like we are living in one of his novels. It feels like the world has caught up with his vision, and we live now in one of his novels. Like very recently, do you see that thing where Ivana Trump came out with a robot, and and she was talking about education, and it just seems so disconnected, one thing from the other, like everything about
Yeah.
that. But I thought that's a very Philip K. Dick moment right there.
And I am wondering, are you doing your art full time, or do you have to have other ways of augmenting your life style, or basically to remain financially solvent so that you can do your art?
Yes, a matter of fact, I have two jobs actually. I'm a custodian during the week, like at a clinic, at a community clinic, and on weekends I do security at a nearby place. So yeah, quite busy. And going back to what you said about how these things cost money.
So tell me what robo-pulp is. I know Jay Corso, but what is robo-pulp?
Robo-pulp is kind of like an amalgamation of sci-fi and like pulp fiction. So robo comes from science fiction, which is probably my favorite genre growing up. And still is my favorite genre. Because it's a genre of ideas. Like the best science fiction is not a fiction that supports ideas and clashings of ideas and things like that. So I find that exciting. And my second favorite genre growing up, and still is my favorite, is the crime thriller, the spy thriller, like the suspense, I guess, story. Something involving building tension, building dramatic tension, building suspense to the point that you're like sitting there like, oh, like you just want the resolution of some kind. Like I love that when I see that in books, in movies, in any kind of media, when I see that, I'm like, that is awesome. I want to do that. I want to write a story that makes someone feel the same way, like give you that tension building, that sort of like anxiety. So that's where that comes from, robo and pulp. So science fiction and pulp crime fiction. That's where that comes from, that amalgamation. I feel that's
I,
my niche, I guess, or my brand.
okay. I love the pulp fiction. I got on a kick on that for a while, just reading nothing but pulp fiction. It was so fun.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Chandler. I lean more towards Hammett, I guess, because Hammett has a more. I guess I like the attitude better. Matter of fact, one thing that I'm putting together right now is like a little reading guide of pulp hard boiled reading of books that I feel may not be very popular, may not be well known, because they tend to be from the early to the mid 20th century. And
Uh-huh.
Hammett is one of those people that figures it, because Red Harvest is one of my favorite books.
I'll have to give him a try because I haven't even heard of him, like you said. I mean,
Oh wow!
he
Oh,
hasn't ever
you
popped
need
up
my
on my
guide. Yeah,
radar.
once it's ready, I'll share it with you.
Okay. Sounds good. So let me ask you a question. One of the things that a lot of struggling artists deal with is kind of the identity crisis. So you mentioned that you're a custodian and a security guy. You've got those two jobs going right now. When you meet up with somebody and they ask you, who are you? What do you do? Do you say, I'm a custodian? Do you say, I'm in security? Or do you say, I'm an artist who moonlights as a custodian and a security guy?
I tend to say I'm a custodian. Like that's the main job, so I tend to put that one first. One thing going into this about identity, what you said is not everybody really cares about that, so I tend to save that for after I get to know them a little better. Like we have a conversation, and along the course of the conversation, you start mentioning maybe, like you said, Raymond Chandler, or you start mentioning Philip K. Dick. It's like, oh, okay, so this guy's from my tribe. So then I'll start letting in. Oh, and by the way, I made this comic book that kind of draws from those two writers. So in the beginning, I usually just give the standard definition of a job, but then I wait a little more to see if maybe that's something you can share, because it can be painful. If you probably are eager to share this thing, but you may be speaking to someone who, not in a mean-spirited way, nothing to do with them being cruel or mean. They just simply don't care. It's not part of their wheelhouse. So I usually wait till I know them a little better, and then I'll kind of drop that on them rather than just say it.
That's interesting because I sometimes wonder too, like, does the and I say this because I deal with it myself, because like I'm a contractor, and so when I look at people and they ask me what I do, I often do the same thing. I say, yeah, I'm a contractor, or I'm in real estate development or something like that. And it does. It depends a lot on who you're talking to. Maybe some person I'll say I'm an investor, or it kind of depends on the realm they're in. But sometimes I wonder too, like if they're in maybe a teaching role, or if they're in something else that has nothing to do with construction, why do I default to the job that pays the bills rather than the job that brings fulfilling moments to my life? And so it's like, for me, it's always a struggle of, identity. Like, I consider myself a writer, but when I'm around other people, I just get nervous about, putting myself out there as I want to be noticed, and so I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing, and I was just wondering if you had some of the similar kinds of, I guess, struggles when you talk to people.
Yes, not so much now, but not that long ago, I was in the very similar position where I kind of hesitated when the subject of what do you do for a living came up. It was almost like I would try to change the topic and try to avoid it, because, like you said, it's something that is very special to you. It means a lot to you, but you
Yeah.
hesitate to talk about it because you'll get like strange stares, or they will be the ones who change the topic, or you get a lot of things like that. But w- this is one of the things that I write about in my Substack about how. What you do may not connect with everyone, so don't maybe almost become like a secret agent, in that there's something fun about having multiple identities. Like I find that very exciting. Like you said, I have really two identities, and I like that. And I think that comes from someone like David Bowie, or like artists who manage to reinvent themselves every so often, but they remain at the core the same person. So it comes from that. It comes from just let it go. Like just accept that. What you do is not for everyone, and just kind of enjoy it. Just kind of have fun with the idea of like identities are fluid. Like you have this secret that is only for certain people. That kind of flips a perspective and makes it like a fun game, rather than like you said, like this struggle of like that almost gives you anxiety of like, do I say that I do this, or do I not say that I do this? Like just sort of there's the surface, your contractor or the custodian, whatever. But then there's the secret identity, which is only reserved for certain people. And the code phrase is, like a certain author name, a certain book name, something like that. So that's what I've done with it. I've turned it into like a game of sorts, into like a little identity game.
It makes me think of Superman. It's like all he has to do is put on some glasses, and suddenly no one recognizes him anymore.
The little lock,
He's
the little
Clark
like.
Kent now. All of a sudden, it's like, wow, those glasses changed everything. It's like, come on, really?
That's an interesting argument, yeah, because that's all Clark Kent has to do. Batman, has to struggle to be Bruce Wayne because he wants to be Batman all the time. Like there's like a compulsion there to be Batman always. Whereas Clark
Yeah.
Kent seems to be easily step into the two, you know. So you could use that. You could model yourself after people. Like I said, I kind of model myself after like David Bowie, after like who was I thinking of? Maybe
I
Graham
haven't ever
Greene,
heard
who
of
had
anyone
like
who
two
said they
identities as
modeled
well.
themselves after David Bowie. Congratulations.
I'm sorry, what was that? Well, I couldn't understand what you
You're
said.
the first person I've ever heard who has said they model themselves after David Bowie. Jay, I'm loving this conversation with you because the more I talk with you, the more I see that you have just a passion for the arts, a passion for creativity, and it's so fun and refreshing to talk to somebody who, I mean, you clearly put a lot of time into understanding these things, to learning about these things, and then to creating them. I'm wondering, just out of curiosity, you've got two full time, or is it two full time jobs or two part time jobs?
One
But you've
is
got two jobs.
one is full time. The other one is supposed to be a part time. It's gradually becoming almost like a full time job in that they're giving me more shifts on the weekends. So it's almost like
Okay,
one
so
and a
you've got
half
the
jobs at this point.
so you've got these two jobs going, plus your creativity and art and the things you're posting on robo-pulp. How do you balance everything? How do you find time to do everything that you want to be doing?
Okay, so until very recently, I was resentful of that. I was resentful of that situation. But so there's a couple of groups on school that I'm a part of that I join, and we were discussing that. And over the course of going back and forth with a lady who runs a group, I just came up with the idea of micro focus, of like being able to just take little moments of your day, because through my day, through both of my jobs, I have little moments of downtime. I have these little 15, 20-minute windows where I can just sit down and be on the phone. So I said, okay, first I guess I've been reading a lot of personal growth too over the past few years. And there is the concept of acceptance, accepting this is your reality, this is your situation. You can keep raging against it and waiting for some time window, some perfect circumstances, or you can tell your brain, this is our situation right now. Let's find let's get used to doing something now, like little moments, these little moments of downtime. Use them. And gradually, I've been able to do that. I can now just take 10 minutes. I'll pull up a document on my phone through Google Docs, and I'll just write again. And then I'll stop and go work on something. They put a work order for something. I'll go back and do that. Then I'll have a little bit of downtime later on, and I can pick it up again and go. And at first, it was a bit of a struggle, but I stayed with it. And now I can do that. I can actually sort of pick up immediately where I left off and just add to it again. And usually when I'm doing the job, whatever it is, in my mind, I already know what happens next in the story. So I'm excited. I'm actually energized about that, about when I'm going to sit down again to be able to write. So I'm calling it micro focus, and I'm going to write more about that. I'll share that with you as well once I put some thoughts on paper, because I think this is a situation of most creatives. You have a job, or you have multiple jobs, or you have a job that demands a lot of your time and focus. But you can do that. You can actually take little moments of your job, of your day, and be creative. Or you can just wait for a better time. And of the two, the first one is the most likely to happen. You can just try to make most of what you have now, or I don't know, I don't want to sound like I'm putting down writers' retreats, but I feel there's a scammy aspect to them in that it's a lot of money. You have to go very far away, and once you're there, all of a sudden, like, what do? Like, you have the thing that you wanted, but you didn't condition your mind for that, and all of a sudden, you don't know what to do with yourself. You end up hiking in the woods a lot, sitting by the river, but probably not getting a lot done. Whereas if you
No,
condition yourself to work now, with these circumstances, this environment, you start conditioning your brain to be creative at all times. So when you do finally are able to go to that retreat, you're like, oh man, I have all this time. Like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this thing. I guess I'm ready for it. You condition your mind to do it for you. You condition your brain to be creative.
Jay reminds us something that we often forget. You don't need perfect conditions to make your art. You don't need a cabin retreat or a month off work. You need identity, intention, and micro focus. Those small windows where you choose to create instead of waiting for the perfect moment. If you want to explore Jay's world, robo-pulp is linked below. He's building something special. And check out any of these other videos that are somewhere on the screen, I hope. and they will lead you to other great content that I've put out there. And if you're a creative trying to avoid the struggling artist trap, subscribe to Light-Minded Arts. This is where we're figuring this out together. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you next time.